whoever did this was like, I'm going to take my gun. I'm going to climb up on that roof. I'm going to murder someone. And thinking it was the right choice. You know what I mean? Like, this is your only choice. Why did you go down there and ask him a fucking question and yell at him? Hi, everyone. This is Pivot from New York Magazine and the Vox Media Podcast Network. I'm Kara Swisher.
And I'm Scott Galloway.
So today we should start very much saying what happened yesterday in Utah was a terrible and tragic situation. I think there's been a lot of anger, a lot of accusations, a lot of really ugly stuff going on. But being able to speak, even if you disagree with someone, and as you might imagine, we Scott and I have disagreed with Charlie Kirk many times. You can say what you want, but having this happen is probably the most heinous thing that could occur in a country like the United States, where we're supposed to be able to say the most horrible things and continue to debate. Scott?
Well, that's all. Yeah, look, I've been thinking about this a lot, as most people have, over the last 18 hours. Look, at the end of the day, or the beginning and the end is the following. A 31-year-old father of two was needlessly murdered. All right? That is a tragedy, full stop. Should not happen. And we should be thinking about tangible actions to make sure it happens less. Charlie Kirk, in my view, and we said this, and just to be honest, I won't speak for you. In my view, said a lot of divisive, hateful things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
At the same time, his format was really powerful and productive. And that is, a lot of people on the far left and the far right go into their echo chambers in a studio somewhere behind a mic and only listen to or respond to people who are supporting them. He went on campus and he would have these open mic, challenge me or debate me or prove me I'm wrong.
Prove me I'm wrong.
Yeah, prove me wrong. And I thought that was really productive and courageous, because he was subject to a lot of TikToks and videos that made him look bad. And a lot of times he would make great points and show that a lot of young people weren't being critical thinkers about their progressive views. And a lot of times young people would show up and say very intelligent things that counteracted in critical thinking and showed that he was wrong. That is a productive dialogue we should have on campus. Campuses are supposed to be, and this is one of the most upsetting things about a very upsetting thing, university campuses are supposed to be an incredibly safe place physically, but a dangerous place intellectually. And that is, and unfortunately, 100%. This reduces both. People, I don't know about you, I'm rethinking some of the campus appearances I've committed to. They are supposed to be physically safe spaces, not only for the speakers, but for the students. And I won't even get into some of the high school stuff, but you have to appreciate he was a great businessman at a very young age, a father of two, and his dialogue and his format, I felt, was a productive, brave dialogue. Right? This is a tragedy. Let me get to some of the second order effects, and I want to get your thoughts. It's just so disappointing that universities are becoming a place, because of violence, and schools, this should be the safest places in the world for discourse. That's just super, super upsetting. What I find, and this is where, as progressives, I feel a pressure to feel the other side. I think the reaction from the far right on this is so fucking bullshit. Every person on the far left has said something along I don't care if it's Secretary Clinton, Vice President Harris, everyone has said basically, we condemn this violence. This is never the solution. Our hearts and prayers go out to Charlie and his family. The far right has had a very similar narrative for half of it. Our thoughts and prayers go out to Charlie and his family, and this is the fault of the radical left.
Yeah,
that was political violence only begets political violence. And Trump, our commander, our divider in chief, immediately goes on, highlights political violence against every Republican, forgetting to mention the violence against Speaker Pelosi's husband, against the lawmakers who were murdered in their home in Minnesota. It accidentally slips past every Democrat and says political violence has to stop, and then goes on to foment political violence.
Yes, I would agree. I was sort of like, what? I was like, okay, good. Yes, no political violence. And then shifting into the radical left thing immediately was shocking, especially because nobody knows. They haven't caught this.
I don't know what.
It's a guy, apparently. What a shock. But it's, they've got the gun now. They have videos of the person who did it. They believe it's a college age student. I don't know how they know that. But they must have videos of some sort. So the question is, why would you immediately, without any proof, say something like that at the worst? Now, let me give him one tiny little out. They were very close. And you could be very, very angry and very upset about this incredibly violent death. And unfortunately, it was all over the internet. Extraordinarily, it was an execution, really, was what happened here. And everyone saw what happened. It was murder. And for him to shift to that, the only thing I give him is, okay, he was a friend, but you're also the president of the United States, right? That was what I kept thinking, is like, what in the world would possess you to immediately start with the vengeance? Like, I don't know. I was sort of like shocked myself. And I'm usually never shocked by Donald Trump, but this one was sort of shocking to me.
If you go online right now onto any of these platforms and you see the stuff that's getting 70, 80,000 likes, it's someone saying, that's it. It's war on the fucking radical left. Someone who is understandably outraged and upset. I'm like, well, okay, do we know the radical left was responsible for this? Are you forgetting what's happened to Democrats? And the far left wants to feel—
Yes, they are.
The far left wants to feel empathy and a call for taking the temperature down. I get it. The far right—
Not everybody. Let's be clear. There's some stupid people saying stupid things online about him.
I haven't seen any
about
of the
his
what I'll
death.
call—
Not about him, about his death.
Oh, so
no, it's just
that.
usually like anonymous, like the right is cherry picking some dumb, stupid
I haven't
seen
any
a lot of it.
famous person from the left
who
has any credibility saying anything but our hearts go out to the family.
100.
Violence is not the answer. This needs to stop.
Yeah.
And then you have
100%.
very famous right-wing hosts saying, this is it.
Steve
this is
Bannon.
war, and it's the radical left. It's the I laid this at the feet of the radical left, and the president has said this, and that just begets that just creates more violence. And the problem is, the solution is the following. We have two very famous, and people should own their grief. I get upset a lot and emotional on this podcast. I like it when people are vulnerable, but I heard two very famous right-wing pundits yesterday crying over this on air. Fine. I get it. You may have known him personally. You have the right to your own grief and emotions. We didn't seem to be as concerned.
There were two students in Colorado.
With the students in Colorado, or the students who were shot and murdered while praying. And if the left and the right are serious about this, I mean, if they're serious, it all comes down to this. I live in the UK. In the next year, in all of the UK, there will be approximately 30 gun deaths. In the United States, in the next 6 hours, there will be 30 gun deaths.
Yeah.
We don't know much. We don't know the motivation of the shooter. We don't know who he is. I'm comfortable saying he, because let's be honest, it's always a he. What we also know is
the government is saying that. Just so you know, just they're saying it's a man.
We also know that this person used a high-powered rifle, and there's too many goddamn guns. And Charlie Kirk used to say, you have to pay a price for certain rights. And he said, look, there'll be a certain number of deaths. I buy that in theory. I'm comfortable with an increase in prevalence in crime with protection or certain search and seizure rights, that someone can't show up at my home and just say, we suspect you. So I get the concept, but it's an issue of scale. At some point, does a total fidelity to gun rights begin to come at such an unbearable cost? And this is an example of this. And I don't hear anyone saying, well, that's not true. I heard AOC say this. If we're serious about this, we can talk about
on gun rights. Yeah.
We can talk about dialing down the rhetoric. Good luck with that. Jesse Waters was already out yesterday saying this is war, right? Okay. The rhetoric, good luck with trying to get people to dial down the rhetoric, and with social media that makes hundreds of billions of dollars by enraging people with their algorithms. If we're serious, we have to have sensible gun control laws.
Yep, 100%. So just to update people, as of this recording, and that could change, the manhunt is still underway for the person the government is identifying as a man who shot and killed 31-year-old conservative activist Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University on Wednesday. Officials, as I said they've recovered the gun and believe was used in the shooting in the woods nearby, a high-powered bolt-action rifle. Investigators also a video, as we say, of the suspect. They're trying to use facial recognition to identify the person. The FBI was pretty cloddish at the start. They had fired the head of the Salt Lake City office because she was a Pakistani woman, apparently. And they were very cloddish. They said there were suspects in custody when there weren't. Kash Patel's not really exactly seeming very sharp here, but we'll see. These things are very chaotic. At the same time, the government is not supposed to feel chaotic. In terms of reactions, as you said, a lot of people did denounce the violence and linking his words to his death. He is not to blame for his death. Let's be clear. I'm sorry, people. I know you were angry at some things he said, but you just then be angry at things he said. That's pretty much where it stops. Although President Trump, as we said, is blaming the radicalist rhetoric and others calling for war. One of the first things out of the gate was Elon Musk saying the left is murderous, essentially. If they won't leave us in peace, then our choice is to fight or die. That was possibly one of the worst. Steve Bannon and Jesse Waters, same thing. We're not at war with them, and nor this is really irresponsible for high-profile people. Utah's Republican Governor Spencer Cox took a different approach. Now, it's a little long, but I think it's well worth listening to. So let's listen to what he said.
Our nation is broken. We've had political assassinations recently in Minnesota. We had an attempted assassination on the governor of Pennsylvania. And we had an attempted assassination on a presidential candidate and former president of the United States, and now current president of the United States. Nothing I say can unite us as a country. Nothing I can say right now can fix what is broken. Nothing I can say can bring back Charlie Kirk. Our hearts are broken. We mourn with his wife, his children, his family, his friends. We mourn as a nation. If anyone in the sound of my voice celebrated even a little bit at the news of this shooting, I would beg you to look in the mirror and to see if you can find a better angel in there somewhere. I don't care what his politics are. I care that he was an American.
I thought that was so eloquent and actually really just perfectly done. Political speeches are so important at times like this, or from leaders, political leaders. And I thought this was just exactly the right sentiment. He was acknowledging the anger. He was acknowledging the difficulties of someone disagreeing with Charlie Kirk on some of the things he said. But he also was pointing out we just have to we have to get beyond this, and noted he was a father with children, and at the same time talking about assassinations of Democrats, essentially, and trying to equalize them. I thought it was fantastic. I don't know what, and I wish it had gotten more attention than, and then it was followed by Trump, which was was the opposite of leadership, I thought.
Yeah, he gave what felt like a presidential speech, right? Acknowledging that was, I think he did exactly what you would expect from a leader. So, kudos to him. And again, the thing that really struck me as someone who's on campus every day, between people being, conservative voices being shouted down on campus, between intimidating certain students or getting in the way of their learning, between The whole point of a university is we put it outside the city center for a reason, such that people could say provocative, upsetting things. And they were allowed to do that. And Charlie Kirk, I think, in my view, one of the most positive things you could say about him was he was endorsing that, and I thought what he was doing on campus, regardless of what you think of the rhetoric, was actually a positive. I liked those videos, and a lot of people felt I think that people who were angry at him were angry that we didn't have as strong of voices going on campus in saying and presenting a different viewpoint. He was just very good at what he did, but there is something. The Australian, I think it's a newspaper magazine, kind of summarized it, said that there is culturally, we are really struggling in the U.S., and it really stains our amazing accomplishments. And this is an example of that these places that are supposed to be places of critical thought and free speech, something like this that happens. And also just the fact that we have normalized, there are so many, I'm not in any way saying this is less heinous or excusing what happened here. When you're a public figure and you decide to go into politics, someone say Charlie Kirk, when you decide to run for president, the bottom line is 1 out of 3 presidents in the last 50 years have been shot at. There are certain risks. If you're going to school, you don't have a choice. You don't enter into a high risk. These are supposed to be the safest places in the world. There's been 24 shootings on college campuses.
And school and high schools. And
that's just
schools.
Colleges.
Right.
And we're talking 40,000 people a year, 121 people every day. And I've said this over and over. The free gift with purchase coming to the UK is I no longer have these horror fantasies around getting up in the morning and seeing my kids' high school on CNN.
No, I was thinking, like, what is this idea of what a college is? I interviewed, Jordan Klepper, actually, his recent documentary was about Charlie Kirk, about people, how he went there. And it was a really interesting discussion because in many ways, he was saying it's sort of the reason why he was successful is he actually showed up and talked to them, right? That was the thing. Even if they, and that's why he was able to convince them. And he goes, it was sort of a little bit different, but not that much different as people that came to campus and gave out free hats and beers, right? Like, hey, let's, like, whatever had happened, whatever the marketing thing had to be. But he really did market the ideas. And he was, just before he died, he was throwing out hats. He was creating a situation. And I would agree with you. I was always sort of, where was a version of this for Democrats making their case? And again, let me say, stuff that came out of his mouth was so upsetting to hear for me and many others. I think I kind of I started ignoring a lot of the stuff he said because I knew he was doing it to get people's goat. But if you were a college student, that would be, I don't want to use the word trigger because it's gotten so abused, but it was not nice, right? Like if you were a gay person, the things he said, or a woman or a black woman or whatever. And yet, there's that sort of Hyde Park Corner kind of idea of our world where, the idea of the Hyde Park is a park in London where people can say whatever, they get on a soapbox and say whatever they want. And some of it's really just heinous. I've been there and it's really like, what did you just say? And I think we've lost the ability to, it's not react, because you should react and get angry. You should push back. You should be incensed, right? I think all those things are kind of good for the development of minds, right? Like what did they just say? But it's almost like being in a bar. Like you don't then hit someone. You don't then, you're like, you could even call, you're an asshole when that happens. I mean, it happens a lot, actually. And I don't know what the problem is. And I talked about this, is that I do think online gets it even worse. Like it gets into people's heads in a way that I don't know what would cause you to do this, to like climb yourself on a roof and shoot someone. Like in execution style, like what is the jump? And sometimes I think, sort of the stew of hate speech that's available to people sits in their brain, especially online, especially as it goes viral, what is that leap from, you know, if you said something to me offensive, Scott, I'm not going to use Kirk as an example because he just died. But if you said something terrible to me, why would my first thing be to get a gun and shoot you? Like, where's that moment? And I think a lot of the stuff online does get people. You can see it in the notes from shooters. You could see it in the guy who shot the people in Minnesota. There's something that turns with the constant steeping online, especially, and in videos and things like that, that creates that jumping off point. I don't know what it is, but there is a moment where they say, I think what I'll do is get a gun. And I think what I'll do, and that's not a new thing. Look, we've had that happen throughout history, but it seems like just so much of an easier leap than it used to be. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think but see, I do think you can disarticulate it down to a few things. And that is, one, people are spending more and more time online, and that does a couple things. One, the algorithms have connected engagement with enragement. So if you go online, it tries to figure out if you're conservative or progressive, and then take you to the extreme and start making the other side look bad, look evil, look dangerous. And so there's a culture of rage dividing us, being fueled by the deepest pocketed godlike technology with Paleolithic institutions to regulate them. So
that's incredibly well said.
Our profit motive in the United States and 10 companies driving the entire market have a rage motive that divide us. Maybe they didn't intend to, but that is what's going on. 2, the social isolation of young men. And that is, too many young men are going into those bubbles, getting enraged, and because they're not going into work because of remote work, because they're not getting as many economic opportunities, because they're not doing as well in school, because their prefrontal cortex doesn't develop as fast as a woman's, because they don't have as many romantic opportunities, they're not connecting with friends, they're not connecting with work, they're not connecting with romantic partners, they're isolating from their family. And when that happens, when those guardrails are no longer present, they don't have the ability to see, oh, I just met a Trumper at work, and you know what? He seems like a pretty cool guy.
Or he enrages me and I'm not going to talk to him, right?
But I learned how to deal with it. And I realized that, or my girlfriend or my mother or my father says, what the fuck are you doing and saying? Stop that. No, that's not right. Or they start asking you questions that help illuminate that what you are thinking makes no sense. So we have profit connected to rage. We have the social isolation of young people who have no guardrails and start becoming increasingly prone to irrational behavior, that if they were more social, they'd have greater guardrails. And then the kicker is we take an enraged public and young men and men who have no guardrails and are much more prone to irrational thoughts and behavior, and then we make weapons of war easily accessible
to them. Yeah, it really is. It's, there have been shooters over all of history, right? There's always someone somewhere, but it just feels like that leap is so much smaller for so many people, right? I think I'll take a gun. I just kept thinking, whoever did this was like, I'm going to take my gun. I'm going to climb up on that roof. I'm going to murder someone. And thinking it was the right choice. You know what I mean? Like, this is your only choice. Why did you go down there and ask him a fucking question and yell at him? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that to me, it's just, maybe this person's mentally ill. I don't know. One of the things that we should talk about very quickly, the offshoot of this, is all these conspiracy theories around this guy's death, murder. I'm going to say it's a murder. It is. Which is like, they have, what's incredible is they have all these videos. It looks like they have videos of almost everything. And that's an interesting thing in law enforcement. But now there's all these conspiracy theories. There's now a video of 2 guys making hand signals, looking like they're telling the shooter to shoot. Then there's other people saying it's an intelligence ops from Russia or Israel or this and that. And then another person arguing, oh, if it was that, they wouldn't be seen on the roof, which kind of makes sense. If you're really good at what you do, you don't get seen, essentially. And this conspiracy stuff is, whose interest is it for Charlie Kirk to be dead and move away from the Epstein files, right? And you just sit there and you're like, what if you were I'm confused by all this stuff. I'm like, oh, huh. And then I get dragged in, and then I'm like, no, stop. We don't know anything right now, right? But if you're a young person, boy, is all this post-murder conspiracy theory is even worse to have to deal with. I just find it very upsetting in that regard. And I can't imagine being a young person who's not quite there on judgment on any of this stuff.
Well, and we don't have, and I'm a party to this yesterday, we don't have anything resembling fact-checking or anything that's measured. So, it's, again, these socially isolated young people with a profit motive around spreading conspiracy theory. Typically these types of shooters fit not always, but typically they're young men who are hoping to regain social capital with what they see as a heroic act of violence. They're, isolated, feel like people don't respect them, are looking to gain back social capital and think they can get it because they've been convinced this person or this movement is truly demonic and that they would be heroic in killing this person. And, oh, by the way, dad's got a sniper rifle. I mean, anyways, I find the whole thing, again, it was strange. I don't know if you felt this way. I felt unnaturally hit in the gut by this. I just thought, oh, fuck, this is just so bad for everyone and everything. And I feel bad for him. I feel bad for his family. I feel bad for the chilling on dialogue this is going to have on university campuses. I feel that the dialogue is immediately going to go to be politicized and blaming the radical left, which happened right away. You can see the whole
road ahead. Yeah.
And, I'm already seeing stuff from like, was it a trans shooter? And I mean, you're already seeing this shit, right? And
I'm seeing now, was it an Epstein shooter? Because he backed off on the Epstein stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and you sit there and it's like, it could be anybody because they're all fucking crazy.
We don't know.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're like, oh my God. And I think the fact that one of the things I hate about this in a weird way is we have so much information and so much of it is bad, right? I have refrained from saying very much about anything online because I'm like, I don't know. I want to wait and see what happens.
Where I was going with this is, and I immediately took it down, and I need to be more careful. I saw this video of Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has been, in my opinion, very courageous around all of the Epstein stuff. I saw this video of her coming outside of her office and putting up a picture of that card, right? And putting it on the front of her office and then hitting her hands together. I'm like, wow. And I immediately posted it and said, I have a lot of mixed emotions looking at this. And then immediately my files were like, Scott, it's AI. I'm like, oh, fuck. And I immediately took it down. Yeah. But not before it went. Not before it went out to 1.2 million people.
I know. That's why I posted very little, except for that Spencer Cox. Can I ask you one more question?
Yeah.
We have to move on. But you said you're nervous about appearing on college campuses.
I'm not.
You said it.
I'm not, but I have someone very close to my life who knew I'm supposed to speak at a public university. I don't have nearly the footprint and popularity of this guy, so I don't mean to create a false equivalence. But I'm supposed to speak at a university, a big public state university, and someone very close to me is like, "No, you're not going." Obviously this evokes an emotional reaction, and this person has said, "Well, yeah, I don't give a shit. You're not going."
Yeah.
And comedians who used to be the pushback here, I think a part of the anger from the left from Charlie Kirk was quite frankly because he was just more effective. We did not have an equivalent Charlie Kirk going on campus as organized, as youthful, quite frankly as courageous. He was not afraid. He got in front of people. Sometimes he made a great point. Sometimes he looked stupid. He didn't care. He played a huge role in Trump's election. And I think part of the venom from the left around how pissed off they were about Charlie Kirk was quite frankly, he was just more effective than us.
Part of it. Some of the things he said were terrible.
100%. But
he did it on purpose.
Well, he did
it
like a lot of people. He would say incendiary things to get a reaction and get more YouTube videos. Even if I don't know, maybe he believes this shit. Maybe hopefully he doesn't. But anyways, who used to be on campus doing this was comedians.
Yeah.
And now comedians won't go on campus because they're like, I don't need anyone shouting me down or waving a Palestinian flag in my face, or I just don't need that shit. And so we on the left, I remember at UCLA when I was there, everyone from Bill Murray to REM to, I'm dating myself, to Carl Icahn used to show up. And I know a lot of people are like, I'm not going to fucking campus. Did you hear what happened to my friend on campus? And by the way, it happens just as much to people on the far right.
Far left, too.
Yeah,
far
it
left
happens,
and right.
It happens both. If someone's upset and they feel on campus emboldened to interrupt them, try and make them look stupid or worse, right? And it's really, we're probably headed to an environment where we're going to have, I would think at some point we might have metal detectors on campus. I don't know.
It's
How would you feel if you were invited to speak at a campus right now in a large crowd, 2,000 or 3,000 people outside in the square like that? How would you feel?
Nervous, because just basic areas of disagreement that you or I might say strongly, because we're always like making jokes and saying rude things. I mean, we said someone had a micro dick. I forget who it was. Stuff like that. We're always saying that. But I was like, if one crazy fucking online incensed person with a gun shows up, I could see it now. And before I could never see it. Like, they got mad at one little thing I said. It makes me nervous. It does. It does. Because it's not because I think I don't want people to disagree with me. It's that I think something's happened to some people online and they have access to a gun. It's nerve wracking. Yeah.
100%.
I could see
100%.
it. For a second, I definitely think about it. Anyway, very quickly, I want to talk about the political violence, the other side of the world in Nepal, which is really sort of shocking in a lot of ways. The country is now under nationwide curfew after mass protests led by teenagers and young adults turned deadly. The unrest began after the government banned social media, but protesters also were calling out unemployment, corruption, and inequality. It was a bigger thing than just social media, but social media set it off about this sort of culture of elitism, and it sort of manifested itself. And the only reason I talk about it is because what I'm hearing from lots of sources that they're about to announce the TikTok deal. It's probably going to Larry Ellison and a bunch of investors. I noted this online. And one of the things, of course, was it was supposed to be banned, right? And this is supposed to be the solution to it. And I wondered, what if it did get banned? Would something like this happen with young people? Probably not in this country. But I don't know if you have any thoughts on what happened in Nepal. It was sort of, social media is what set it off. I don't think it was the root cause, but nonetheless.
I don't know that much about it other than typically it's young people that start revolutions because young people are more risk aggressive and willing to go to a square and risk getting shot. But I mean, quite frankly, I'm not trying to, obviously loss of life is anywhere is a tragedy, but I just thought, God, they got their Instagram. That was the final straw. They got their Instagram taken away. It felt like I would not have guessed that. I don't know anything about the Nepalese culture. But that's what started it.
Countries not this country use social media as everything. Like it's TV, and so including business, right?
It's basically like shutting down the newspapers and the TV stations when they take away your social
media. So for people that don't understand it, and I think this was a hugely corrupt sort of Nepo economy where these people have just about had it. And then they were like, now you can't say anything. And it has a culture of free speech, this country. Anyway, it's just interesting to watch these movies.
You just summarize it. I don't even know what happened, and I think I know what happened, and that this was the excuse, but I'll bet you anything it's a lack of economic opportunity for young people. That was the kindling, and them taking away their social media was the spark. If you reverse engineer almost any uprising among youth, it's that they get pissed off that there's a group of people sucking oxygen out of the room from them, and that okay, we're fed up. We don't see a future for us to find a family, be treated fairly, and it's a group of old people who are aggregating too much information, or I'm sorry, too much power.
I often don't say this because I do think some speech is indeed hateful and damaging. But the solution to a lot of this is more speech and more dialogue. Mm-hmm. And I think one thing that really kind of stuck in my craw was that MSNBC let go of Matthew Dowd, who said some very factual things on the air, perhaps not good timing, about Kirk, and he seemed to blame Kirk for his own death. I listened to it. I wasn't really clear if he actually said that. What he was talking about was, what we were just saying is that there's so much hate that he was essentially saying if you put hate out in the world, don't be surprised if you get it back, which is probably not the nicest.
He said you
thing
raise
to
the
say at
temperature. He said you raise the temperature like on that, you might get burned, right? I felt like this was when I saw his comments. I felt that MSNBC was essentially the Democratic Party virtue signaling and kicking out Al Franken. I just thought, okay, good for us. Good for us. I don't get it.
Yeah, I didn't get that. I wrote that some people there and I was like, I'm sorry. I just again, this is whatever you think about Charlie Kirk, he was about saying things, right? As provocative as you want. And I don't find that particularly provocative. And maybe we should be a little nicer, right? When someone dies. Absolutely. But it seemed it was an overreaction in such a way.
The good news is we can trust that no matter what Fox says and falsely accuses Democrats of being responsible, they will not get fired.
Yeah. I know that. I was like, Jesse Waters, you looked over at Jesse Waters? What in the... He's like, we're at war. I'm like, I'm not at war with you, Jesse Waters. What in the hell? What is he talking about? I know Bannon.
When I first saw his clip, I thought there must be another clip for why he got fired. I think that was a bullshit move. And I loved it. I loved the leadership over at MSNBC. I think they got this wrong.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, I actually told him this too. Anyway, let's go on a quick break. When we come back, Larry Ellison becomes the richest person in the world as Oracle stock soars.
Support for the show comes from Upwork. Hiring shouldn't be a hassle, nor should it be a drain on your budget. That's why there's Upwork. Upwork is your one-stop shop to find, hire, and pay top freelance talent, saving you time and keeping costs in check, all in one place. Companies at every stage turn to Upwork to get things done and find more flexibility. You can staff key projects and initiatives by accessing a global marketplace filled with top talent in IT, web development, AI design, admin support, marketing, and more. Posting a job on Upwork is super simple, and there's no cost to join. You can browse freelancer profiles, get help drafting a job post, or even book a consultation. From there, you connect with freelancers that get you, and you can hire them to help you move your work forward. Upwork makes the entire process easier and more affordable with industry-low fees. Post a job today and hire tomorrow with Upwork. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com to post your job for free and connect with top talent ready to help your business grow. That's UPWORK.com. Upwork.com.
Scott, we're back. Oracle founder Larry Ellison briefly became the world's richest person this week, edging out Elon Musk. His net worth climbed to $393 billion Wednesday after Oracle shares skyrocketed on a blockbuster earnings report, up 42% at one point. Oracle said it won several billion-dollar contracts in the latest quarter, quadrupling bookings from a year before. The company also is forecasting that revenue from its AI-powered cloud business will jump from $18 billion to $144 billion by 2030. On top of all that, OpenAI just signed a deal to purchase $300 billion in computing power from Oracle. And again, I am understanding he's going to get control of TikTok or somehow be the lead person in that. And he's obviously very close to President Trump. And they had been involved with TikTok before. Let me be fair. They were part of when the last time they were trying to figure out what to do about TikTok. Who knows? We'll talk about that when it happens. But this is sort of NVIDIA too. I don't know. Oracle is now a major AI player. What do you think about this?
I think Ellison is a visionary, and he doubled down. I think he figured out that, okay, there should be the most valuable company in the world, NVIDIA. It would be okay to be the second biggest infrastructure company centered around AI. And he made a massive investment, and it's paying off like crazy. Their cloud revenue is projected to increase 77% to $18 billion. They expect their cloud revenue. It was their projections that got the market excited. They project that their cloud revenue will hit $144 billion by 2030. That's a 14-fold increase versus the $10 billion it brought in last year. It said, credibly, the CEO said, we're going to increase our cloud revenue 14x in the next 4 years. Now, what's interesting here is a great deal of that comes from a deal with OpenAI, who will purchase $300 billion computing over 5 years. So get this. Essentially, OpenAI has said, we're going to pay Oracle $60 billion a year for compute, despite the fact we are currently, OpenAI, only making $10 billion a year. They are so confident in their growth that they've just committed to spend $60 billion a year on compute.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Despite only currently making $10 billion. So he became the richest person in the world for a brief moment, biggest one-day gain in history, 36%. He owns approximately 40% of Oracle. And this is a good bridge to Apple. What he has done is Larry's gangster move was Oracle was becoming a mature company, very profitable, and they were buying back shares. When the company went public, he owned 34%. Now he owns over 40% because they've used that excess cash flow to buy back shares until 2 years ago when he said, the future's in AI. It's an arms race.
Yep.
I'm going to massively invest in AI. Who did not do that, Kara? Trivia question.
Apple.
100% correct for 20. One guy said, it's time to put back on our growth pants, so to speak, and start massively investing in AI. And this was the gangster strategic move, arguably of the last 5 years, was an old company saying, fuck it.
And an old guy, and an old company.
We need to start dancing again. You may have gotten used to our dividend. You may have gotten used to our share buybacks. I'm going large because there's no number 2 to NVIDIA, but there's going to be. And now squarely, Oracle has basically put their elbows out and crashed the party and said, oh, no, you may think we're old and dodgy or whatever. We're not. We're hip. Elephants can dance. And now, this was an incredibly smart, deft move of Larry Ellison.
I would never count him out. And also his CEO, Safra Catz. She is really also very sharp. I mean, I think it's really interesting. I think, of course, they did also see the writing on the wall with the Trump administration backing AI. They've been very aggressive at showing up at these AI events. And you remember he showed up at that event with Sam Altman, with the president, that pissed off Elon Musk and everything else. And at the same time, he put a big investment into Twitter, and probably he's about to double cross Elon by owning TikTok, right? Or at least controlling TikTok. So this guy just, whatever it takes. And of course, his son, he funded his son's purchase of Paramount. And so this guy is just very vibrant for an elderly man, I'll say. Okay,
well, just in the price increase from yesterday, 36%, what is that? I don't know what the increase. I'm pretty sure they could buy 30 or 40 Paramounts with just the increase in Ellison's net worth yesterday. He said to his son, go play in traffic. Here's $5 or $7 billion. I've just increased my net worth by $100 billion, right? So yeah, go have fun with Paramount. The numbers here are so staggering. Let's do the math. He's worth about $400 billion. The stock was up 36%, so went up a third. So he made $130 billion yesterday.
I know.
What did they buy Paramount for? 5 or 7?
Yeah.
So they could go buy 20 Paramounts with this increase. His son, he could, if he has 20 kids out there, which is a possibility given what I know about Larry Ellison, he could say to all of them, go buy your own Paramount with the gains from yesterday.
I think it'll actually increase the chances. And I know you think it's small ball Paramount. I know you do. And I think you're right. But I think that it'll increase the chance they might buy Warner. They might, they might do something to, as you say, consolidate and milk. And maybe have some growth somewhere along the lines. It gives them the heft to do so. Yeah, you're going to see some, I think, very aggressive moves from Paramount. We'll see. Larry Ellison, well done, Larry Ellison.
There you go.
I had the strangest evening with him.
I don't know him at all. Have you had any interface with him?
I know. Oh, yeah, I've interviewed him many times. We had him at Code several times.
What's he like? Actually, I have no sense of him.
Oh, he's very funny. Sometimes he's awful. Sometimes he's funny. I hate to say I enjoy spending time with him, but I do. I have to say he's really interesting because some of his views are not my views at all. Again, someone I don't agree with who I really enjoy talking to because he's so smart. And people will fry me for that, but I don't care. I interviewed him several times at Code and All Things D. One was just about his business, and it was interesting. And then when Steve Jobs died, we talked about Steve. He was very close friends. He was his best friend, I would say. And one time I said to Steve Jobs, "Larry Ellison's your best friend?" He's like, "Yeah, I know. It's so weird." Like, they were very different in their political outlook, et cetera, and were very close friends. They had a very similar.
I know why you like him. You relate to him. He's 81 and he married a 33-year-old. I get it. You guys have double dated.
He married a lot of people. He's married a lot of people. I know. I'll tell two very quick stories about Larry Ellison. So he was on stage, and then when he was doing the sailing thing, I met him over near where his sailing stuff was in the regatta in the San Francisco Bay, and we spent the evening he was talking about his kids, which was really interesting, David and his daughter Megan, and he was like, they're really actually pretty okay, and it's nothing due to me, it's the mothers, and it was super, super interesting. And I'm going to tell one more Larry Ellison story. So he had this house in San Francisco that he threw a party at for something or other. And I went because it was one of these stunning San Francisco Pacific Heights houses. And he didn't live in it, I don't think. I think he just had it for parties. And I like looking at houses. I like seeing what they look like. And so whenever I go to a party, I wander around and look at things. Like I do that. I do that at your apartment.
Yeah,
sure.
I do that a lot.
I do that a lot. And so I was wandering around, and I think he has Israeli security. I think that's what he has. He's a big, supporter of Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel. And they caught me, upstairs. They caught me upstairs and they bring me downstairs to him. And he looked at me, he goes, "Ugh, I knew it would be you." You know what I mean? Like he was wandering around, and he goes, "What were you doing?" And I said, "I was looking for the hooker and stripper room." I just said a joke like that. And he goes, "Oh, that's in the basement, Kara." And it was like, I just think he's funny. He's funny. He's a funny guy. He's also
he's
awful.
definitely,
rich.
Well, not only that, he became the richest man in the world. He's like, who thought that? Like, who saw that coming?
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, he also spends the money. He had that house. He had that house that looks like he imported it from Japan. He's got. Yeah, he's a very stylish billionaire. He was always the original billionaire. Anyway,
you know why he spends that kind of money and married a 33-year-old?
All right.
Why? Because he can.
Anyway, anyhow, we'll see what happens. We'll watch for that TikTok thing. Also, obviously, you just talked about Apple. It rolled out its newest iPhones this week, including the iPhone Air, which Tim Cook is calling a game changer. I do not agree with this. It's the thinnest phone ever, about a third slimmer than current models, though there are trade-offs in battery life. Apple also unveiled a new watch model as well as AirPods that can translate foreign languages. That was pretty cool. Meanwhile, AI barely came up at the event, a big shift from last year when Apple Intelligence took center stage. Let me say, this iPhone with the bump on the back, I saw it. I ran into Eddie Q at this morning show event, and he showed it to me, and I was like, it has a bump on the back. It's a big bump. It wobbles. Like, it's skinny, but then it has this big bump, which people are making. They're making people are talking about it online a lot. There's also, it doesn't, I don't want to buy it. I have to say, I don't know why. Maybe I'll buy the 17, but the skinny one is not attractive because it has the bump. I don't know what to say. Anyway, do you think it's a game changer from what you saw?
I'm just sitting here thinking, am I allowed to be crude the day after a murder?
Yes, go ahead.
Whatever. I mean, okay, the announcement, what Cook called a game changer, I would call a hand job and an Advil. It was like, yeah, all right.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
Fine. Was anyone begging for a thinner phone? I don't.
If it was a thinner phone with capabilities and without the bump, sure, why not?
The most exciting thing, and it's available on other platforms, is real-time language translation for the AirPods. I think the AirPods are the most underrated tech product of the last 10 years. I think essentially they're not even a tech product. They're the most ubiquitous, expensive, high-margin piece of jewelry in history. People are now roaming around full-time with a pair of earrings called an AirPods that cost $300 and probably $110.
I ordered them last night.
Yeah, I just leave them in now. They're just everywhere. Yeah. What this signals, though, and where they will get scrutiny per our most recent conversation, is that over the last decade, essentially, Jobs was a builder. He did not believe in share buybacks. He wanted to amass a huge cash hoard, and then such that they were durable and enduring. And if they wanted to, they could take big swings, either acquisitions or go very deep after certain product development. Tim Cook is an operator. And by the way, you got to give it to Tim Cook. He's taken the company from $300 billion to $3 trillion. The question is, have those $700 or $800 billion in share buybacks to date, they have bought back approximately 40% of their outstanding shares, meaning over a 25-year period, they're effectively taking the company private. The question is, when you have these meh product announcements, have they gotten to a point where they, quite frankly, should be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more promiscuous, and be spending some of that unbelievable cash generation and taking more big swings? Because yesterday, there were no big swings. There was nothing that compelling. And this is the difference. It's easy to play Monday morning quarterback, but let's do it. The difference between what Ellison did was a couple of years ago, he said, oh my God, AI is a once in a lifetime generational tech innovation. I am shifting from being a share buyback company to an R&D company, and I'm going to take a massive swing here. And the stock was up 38% yesterday. Apple has basically said we are a mature company. And the problem with Apple being a mature company is that its stock right now does not trade as if it's a mature company. It trades as if it's a growth company at a PE of 33. So where there will be a lot of second guessing, as I'm doing now, is Tim Cook, quite frankly, not keeping up with his peers because he's decided we're going to go into kind of a rest home. We're going to continue. Icon started this by putting pressure on them for share buybacks and a dividend. Yeah. They did both. And unfortunately, they aren't taking the big swings they used to under the Jobs tenure.
Yeah, this phone, I'm like, no. I mean, I'll wait for the fold phone. I'm interested in the fold phone, that's for sure. That kind of becomes an iPad. I'm going to look at that, but it's going to be heavy. I just don't see a compelling need to change my phone with these things. And I like changing phones, by the way. We'll see where it goes. One of the funnier ones was people made, social media was also joking about knee pads for Tim Cook, referring to last week's.
Well, here's a stat. Events. Over the last decade, Apple has spent $500 billion more on R&D. I'm sorry, $500 billion more on share buybacks than on R&D.
That's crazy.
And what do you know?
That's crazy.
Their products are feeling kind of meh.
Meh. I have to say, some people think the bump on the iPhone is presaging some sort of glasses thing that's happening next. So it's sort of a signal. What's in there apparently would work quite elegantly, apparently, with glasses. But we'll see. Let's see some products that really wow us, Tim. I have to say, this didn't. Next up, let's talk about very quickly President Trump's contributions to Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday book. Obviously, the murder of Charlie Kirk has sort of pushed that off, but it was getting a lot of attention. As previously reported, there was a letter from Trump to Epstein featuring a cryptic conversation within a hand-drawn woman's body. I would say a teenage girl's body is what it looked like. There was also a photo of an oversized check appearing to be signed by DJ Trump with a note, Epstein saying, showed early talents with money and women and had sold a fully depreciated woman to Trump for $22,000. President Trump is calling it a dead issue when asked. I think probably this Charlie Kirk situation is going to push it out of the headlines, but at the same time, I still think this Epstein thing has staying power. Thomas Massey looks like he has the numbers to force a release. And in fact, Kirk, before he sort of went backwards a little bit, had said there should be, I was watching a speech where he said it should be full release of unredacted release to the public. So I don't know what you thought. I thought Trump pretended he didn't draw, and then they showed him drawings. He said this birthday book didn't exist. It exists. He said he didn't write a letter. It looks like he wrote a letter. I think the idea that it's fake is kind of ridiculous. Way back then, someone knew he was going to be president and decided to do a fake thing. This seems ridiculous. I think he did it, and he should just say he was sorry, and he won't do that. And they're doubling down on hoax and whatever. I still think it's very damaging to him. This remains damaging. What did you think?
Well, the question is there a red line? We knew he was a rich kid. Okay, that's a reason not to like him. We knew he was not a very good businessman. We knew he took companies bankrupt. We knew he didn't pay subcontractors. We knew that he was accused of sexual assault. We know he's an insurrectionist. And now there seems to be evidence everywhere that he was at a minimum cohorting with a known and convicted pedophile. And the notion that this is a forgery is like, well, okay, you mean somebody 21 years ago broke into the Epstein estate and decided to frame the president, who at that time was a Democrat, thinking when he's president, this will embarrass him. I mean, it's just like the logic.
Unbelievable.
The math ain't mathing here. And I liked what Representative Moskowitz, I think, said in the one of the congressional hearings.
Jared
said,
Moskowitz.
"Why don't you guys? This is outrageous. Let's move to bring in forgery experts and have them opine on this." I mean, the whole thing is just sort of like, at what point are we going to find out the guy is literally the Dark Lord? I mean, look at the things. Every time he's suspected of something, we find out it's true. And it doesn't seem to matter. The question is this the red line? And I am convinced that I'm going on the Times of London radio tonight. I'm convinced the only reason he's supposed to come to the UK, I typed into AI last night, if I were a president trying to keep Epstein out of the news, please name actions and policies that would push Epstein out of the news cycle every 48 hours. And it gave me a playbook for everything he's doing, some of which he's already done, some of which I think he's going to do. But he's coming over here to talk about free speech, which I think is ridiculous. But anything that pushes Epstein out of the news cycle is what he's doing. But I don't know. I think it feels like this is the one thing that is sticking to the guy.
Yeah.
But
because he was a friend of his. Like, what I don't get now, look, I have no idea what happened. I don't have any idea if he's guilty of anything, but why not just say, ugh, it was such bad judgment. I'm so sorry.
Profane, stupid, locker room talk.
Gross. That was dumb. Locker room talk. Yeah, that worked last time. And I shouldn't have written this. And it was before anybody really knew. And I didn't know. I wasn't paying attention. And just say, ugh, I'm so sorry. That was so dumb. Like, that's what Gates did. That's what, like, everyone who's been there, Clinton said it. And it doesn't, it sort of sticks to them, but not like this. This is, I know he's president, but just the drawing was so, like, I absolutely think he proved, like, I looked at it, I was like, yes.
The creepiest thing about, I don't know, when I first saw it, everything about it supposedly being pubic hair, supposed to be an underage girl, I didn't even get it. I looked at it, I'm like, and the creepiest thing about it is, he clearly hired creatives. He organized resources to put this thing together. It wasn't like a stupid note between friends where you an error in judgment. He gathered creative professionals around and said, this is what I want. This is what I'm thinking. Yeah. And then they came back with a subtle image of a prepubescent girl, and your signature will be pubic hairs. And he went, bingo. Yes. That's exactly what I'm trying to get across. Oh, now laminate it, frame it. Wait, what about this? What kind of paper should we use? You could tell that there was real thought that went into this. Thought into it, I agree. And that's the
Scott
creepiest
sent me a similar thing for my birthday, everybody, just so you know. Okay. I agree. Anyway, it's going to stick to you, Donald Trump, no matter what happens. It's going to be on your It's going to be on your record no matter what you do. All right, Scott, let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about Kamala Harris's sizzling upcoming book, which is sort of getting lost here with all the news.
Support for the show comes from Hims. When it comes to your money, your goals, and your future, it's important to have options, the freedom to choose. But when it comes to your healthcare, it too often feels overly prescriptive. One-size-fits-all treatments, preset dosages, zero flexibility. It's like trying to budget a fixed expense with no alternatives. But now there's another way with Hims and Hers. Hims and Hers is reimagining healthcare with you in mind. They offer access to personalized care for weight loss, hair loss, sexual health, and mental health because your goals, your biology, and your lifestyle are anything but average. No membership fees, no surprise fees, just transparent pricing and real care that you can access from anywhere. Feel like your best self thanks to quality, convenient care through Hims and Hers. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/pivot. That's HIMS.com/pivot to find your personalized treatment options. Not available everywhere. Prescription products require provider consultation. See website for full details, important safety information, and restrictions.
Scott, we're back with more news. An excerpt from former Vice President Kamala Harris's upcoming book, 107 Days, was published in The Atlantic, and it is spicy. In it, Harris says recklessness allowed President Biden to make the decision to run again. She also said the decision should not have been left to an individual's ego. The former vice president also said the president's staff fueled negative stories about her performance and often refused to defend her. That is true. I saw that in real time, what do you think? I mean, I'm going to interview her, just so you know, at a live event in Washington in 2 weeks, I think. I'm excited to talk to her. This book was also written with the help of a very good author who's also a friend of mine, Geraldine Brooks, who is also a Pulitzer Prize winner and everything else. She's sort of going the Agassi route by hiring a really great writer. So thoughts? She really went there. I did not think she would, but there she did.
Well, okay. Thanks, Captain Obvious. I feel the same way about Vice President Harris as I feel about all these Republicans who grow testicles after they leave office. We don't need you to decide it's reckless now. Had you demonstrated the leadership capabilities we hope from a president, you should have walked in and said, I don't think you should run again, and I'm not going to support you to run again. Maybe you don't anoint me, fine, but I have an obligation, duty to the country, and you should not be president. This is fucking ridiculous. And she saw up close and personal. But instead, like a lot of people around him, she decided to whistle past the graveyard. And quite frankly,
she does talk about it in the thing. It's like, I think there is, when you're in those situations, everyone's like, well, it's up to Jill and Joe, right? You know what I mean? Like, even if, same thing with Trump, if there's something, and no one will do anything. Like those environments create overly cautious, very reticent people saying it's up to him. Like even, Newsom did it. They all did it. Newsom also did it. So did like all the Democratic, everyone did.
Also, someone who probably deserves more credit than they deserve was Representative Dean Phillips, who very early said, I'm running because I don't think President Biden is fit to run again. And he got pretty swiftly pilloried and swept away. He didn't get a lot of traction, but he does deserve some credit for coming out early. I'd like to roll with that dude. Representative Phillips.
You met him.
I did.
We met him at the DNC. He came over to us.
He came on my pod and came out. Actually, seemed like a nice man.
He also
seemed like a good man. Look, if two podcasters can say a year and a half before he's too fucking old, the vice president and the people around him should have enough fidelity to the White House or Democratic ideals to realize it's time for Pop-Pop to get a gold watch and retire.
I know.
I mean,
I know, but
and not only that,
imagine that environment.
Everyone engaged in it. You remember the emails we were getting? Sign up. You don't understand the assignment. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You don't think the world sees this?
We need to stop Trump. I'm like, not like this. This isn't going to stop Trump. He's going to fall over dead, and then we're fucked. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I don't.
I agree.
Look, I don't. I think the vice president. I said this before. I think the vice president, given UK-style election format in an American environment, she was shortchanged. And President Biden, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Senator Feinstein have stained their legacy because they let their narcissism outweigh what was right for the country. Full stop. And for her also, quite frankly, you can't blame an 80-year-old because he's 80. And his family, which can't see clearly because that's their dad and their husband. But the people around him, Secretary Blinken, Vice President Harris.
All of them.
They all should have sat him down.
All of them. The entire Democratic establishment.
To his credit, I think it was Senator Schumer and Speaker Emerita Pelosi. By the way, he did an exit voluntarily.
He's not talking to Pelosi. I think it was Pelosi who did it.
Because she went in there and said, I'm really sorry. We're both old. We both need to go home. And if you don't announce you're getting out of the race, every 3 days I'm going to have a Democrat, announce they're not supporting you. Yeah. He didn't want to leave. This was not his decision. Yeah. Supposedly he's going through all this rumination and contemplation. But all his rumination and contemplation isn't about how badly he fucked the country. It's about could I have won if I'd stayed in? The narcissism here of these folks, and again, it goes back to what we were talking about before with the shooter. People need guardrails. And what I mean by guardrails is people who have the balls and the credibility to sit in front of you and go, no, you're wrong. You have to stop this. You have to stop this. You're not thinking. Right. You're not thinking clearly.
Yeah. Yeah. I have no doubt that none of them did that. None, including her. And so, what should I ask her? Give me a question for her.
In 10 years, would you have, if someone could say to you in 10 years you can be a Supreme Court justice or be drafted to run for president again, doors 1 or 2, what would you rather do?
Oh, good one. I like that. That's a good one. Yeah. Anyway,
also,
I like that
quite
she's...
frankly, did you really let down the country by not have shown, oh God,
Yeah.
I'll be there in your ear like
You'd
a
be too
producer
scared.
with Anderson Cooper.
Yeah, you'd also never ask her. I have the guts to ask her. You'd be like,
Oh no, you're much
okay.
nicer in person than me. You're much
Am I?
nicer in person than me.
No, but on stage I'll ask her. I'll ask her.
Well, you can get away with
I'll
it.
ask her
Everyone's
the
like,
hard
oh, that's her. There goes that Kara.
There goes that
Kara.
Kara. She's sassy Kara.
Yeah.
Once again. And isn't she charming? But I think the whole establishment did it. But I do like that she wrote it anyway. I'm kind of like, good, just tell us what happened, and then we don't do it again. All right, she didn't have to do this, and she did it. So
They all
we'll see
want
if
to
she's
write
running
books.
again.
They're all.
I know, but
Which
I'm
probably
telling you, she
means
didn't have
she
to do it
wants to
this
be
way.
drafted to be president again. They all write books.
President.
They get a big.
Yeah, she wants to be
everyone
president.
needs to make a living. She got $2 or $3 million advance to write a book, and she wants to make it
She had to
interesting
say
so
something.
people read it. And okay, wow, what a revelation that it was reckless. Okay, no shit. No shit. And now that doesn't help, Vice President Harris.
Scott's review. No shit, Sherlock.
Real?
No shit.
Really? Really? It wasn't the right move for him to stay as long as he did?
It was reckless.
Wow.
Anyway, we got one more quick break. We'll be back for predictions. Okay, Scott, let's hear a prediction.
Well, it's the boring stuff that moves the needle, but we have become kind of the master. We are the Messi of own goals. And for those of you who don't know, Lionel Messi, greatest football player in the history of the game. And the most recent one barely got any coverage, but earlier or last week, I think it was, on September 4th, the Hyundai Motor Group meta plant in America was raided by ICE. About 475 people were detained, including 300 South Koreans who were here on a B-1 visa, visitor visa, which don't normally authorize certain types of manual or long-term work, but they're used all the time for the type of work they were doing. And legal representations argue that many workers' contracts had the required specifications. So it's up for debate whether they had the right visa or not. And they're saying that Homeland Security, Georgia State Patrol, that their actions followed a warrant and investigation into unlawful employment practices at the plant. So what happened? These people who are incarcerated, South Korea immediately chartered a plane, has brought them all back to South Korea. And by the way, this factory is part of this was going to be a $7.5 billion factory. This is exactly what the president claimed he was going to do, bring manufacturing and greater investment into America. South Korea is a fantastic ally. What if Germany said, the US, you're just cleaning up with an AI. We need some of your great American companies to invest in Germany. And we opened an NVIDIA plant there, and we had people over there under what looks to be a legal visa. And then German police raided it, incarcerated our engineers. How would we respond? So this is how South Korea is going to respond. LG, Samsung, Hyundai, they're going to substantially curtail any plans for capital investment in the United States. This was not only stupid, but it's basically going to set us back economically. So this was yet again, another own goal. And then my other one is Russian drones. Russia is. Everybody says, Trump was fond of saying, Russia would have never done this if I was president. Russia is poking Trump in the eye right now. First, a cyber attack on an EU plane with an EU minister. Fine. That's a test. And most recently, they have flown attack drones into Polish airspace.
Seeing what we do.
And to see how we or the EU respond. And I'm not going to get in. My prediction isn't a geopolitical prediction. My prediction is the following. The best stocks for the second half of the year or the last quarter of the year are going to be European defense stocks because Russia sending attack drones into Poland. By the way, Poland is protected by Article 5 of NATO, meaning if they're attacked, all 32 member nations of NATO are attacked. What does this mean? Russia is contemplating or toying with military action against NATO. So what is the economic implication of that? You're about to see Poland has already increased its percentage of GDP going to defense spending. By the way, Poland is an economic miracle. It's going to go to defense. Oh my gosh, you're going to see an increase in defense spending coming out of the EU nations. And they're going to say, you know what? We're not spending it on Northrop Grumman. We're not going to spend it on Anduril. We're not going to spend it on Boeing. We're going to spend it on European defense companies. And guess what? There aren't that many of them. So the 10 or 15 publicly traded European defense stocks are about to see the mother of all capital inflows. So the best performing stocks for the last quarter of the year are about to be European defense stocks because of these drones that Putin sent into Polish airspace.
Yeah. Wow. You're going geopolitical investing. That's really good.
There you go.
I love it. We want to hear from you. Send us your questions about business tech or whatever's on your mind. Go to nymag.com/pivot to submit a question for the show or call 855-51-PIVOT. Elsewhere in the Kara and Scott universe this week, Prof G Market, Scott spoke with Justin Wolfers. I love Justin, professor of public policy and economics at the University of Michigan. Let's listen to a clip.
I happen to think that AI is the most interesting technology of my lifetime, and we may be on the cusp of one of the great technological revolutions. I also might be wrong. That's fine too. That debate is arguably the most interesting and most important economic debate. How to regulate AI, what role it'll play in our lives, how to cushion people for its impact, how to turbocharge it so that we get everything we want out of it. May be the most important economic debate of our lifetimes, and instead we're sitting around talking about tariffs.
Fascinating. Fascinating. You've interviewed Russell Crowe. That's great. Okay, that's the show. Thanks for listening.
I am
to
Maximus. Whatever he said.
He's coming out with a new movie where he plays, I think, Herman Goering, during the Nuremberg trials. It looks amazing.
Wow. With
Rami Malek. Oh, it looks so good. Okay, that's the show. Thanks for listening to Pivot, and be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be back next week. Scott, read us out.
Today's show was produced by Lara Naaman, Zoë Marcus, Taylor Griffin, and Kate Gallagher. Aaliyah Jackson engineered this episode. Jim Mackil edited the video. Thanks also to Drew Burrows, Miss Severio, and Dan Shalon. Nishat Kurwa is Vox Media's executive producer of podcasts. Make sure to follow Pivot on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for listening to Pivot from New York Magazine and Vox Media. You can subscribe to the magazine at nymag.com/pod. We'll be back next week for another breakdown of all things tech and business care. Have a great weekend.